A lawsuit seeks to invalidate Nebraska's medical marijuana ballot measure, you guys. That's right. A former state senator who is also a former state board of health member filed a legal challenge on Thursday seeking to invalidate 2 Nebraska ballot petitions related to medical cannabis. Josh Cohen of Hartwell, a veterinarian and rancher who has fought any form of marijuana legalization, argued the 2 measures should not be placed on the November 5th ballot. Cluen, through attorneys Stephen E. Gunzel and Cameron E. Gunzel and Andrew LaGrone, also a former state senator, cites 7 reasons ranging from procedural violations to state constitution and federal law infractions. The lawsuit was filed Thursday afternoon in Lancaster County District Court, and Kuhn served in the legislature from 2015 to 2019, has been the leader in smart approaches to marijuana, or better known as Project SAM, a national organization that seeks to prevent another big tobacco. And LaGrone served 2 years in the legislature back in 2019 through 2021 and is married to current state senator Julie Slama. Both Kuhn and LaGrone were close allies of then Governor Pete Ricketts during their time in the legislature, and Ricketts appointed Kuhn to the State Board of Health and LaGrone to the legislature. There are 7 alleged complaints, though the lawsuit through the lawsuit, Kuhn is seeking to prevent Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Envin from certifying both petitions for the November 5th ballot. If they are placed on the ballot, Kuhn seeks to prevent the state from certifying the election results of those measures if he is successful. By state law, Envin must certify the ballot by Friday because early voting ballots must be sent to overseas voters as early as next Friday, September 20th, and the lawsuit sets up a tight timeline for the lower court and a likely appeal to the Nebraska Supreme Court. Judge Susan Strong has been assigned to this case, and the 2 petitions would respectively legalize and regulate medical cannabis, extending legal protections to and defining who is a patient, caregiver, or related medical provider. The petition is backed by Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana and led by statewide campaign manager Krista Eggers, State Senator Anna Wishart of Lincoln, and a former State Senator Adam Moorfield of Lincoln. Evanin and the trio leading the campaign are named in the lawsuit, and a spokesperson for the Secretary of State's office said Evanin had no immediate comment and more information on the cannabis petitions would be available on Friday. In an official statement, the campaign said Secretary Envin declared that both NMM initiatives collected enough valid signatures to be certified. We are confident that NMM satisfied all legal requirements and gathered the required signatures to qualify for placement on the November ballot. Kuhn alleges the following reasons that should invalidate the petitions. Get ready for you guys because there's 7 of them. Delays from the Nebraska Secretary of State's office in making copies of signatures available for public scrutiny upon request. The lawsuit states the Secretary of State Bob Envin has a duty to ensure that any diligent challenger has a meaningful opportunity to exercise their right to seek review and appeal before he certifies the ballot. And not enough valid signatures for the ballot access, and a failure of Envin to strike duplicative signatures and invalid sponsor statement from Senator Anna Wishart of Lincoln. We can roll this down a little bit. Both petitioners, a violation on both petitions related to the state's constitutional single subject rule that all measures must contain only one subject, an unlawful delegation of power to a proposed Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission that would oversee regulation of medical cannabis, and finally, preemption of federal laws that prohibit marijuana as a Schedule I drug, you guys. Man, oh man. The plaintiff is entitled to expedited injunctive relief, the lawsuit states, and Kuhn argues that based on the petition pages he had reviewed and in evidence that will be presented to the court, many signatures were invalid and unlawfully accepted by the secretary under the state law. And counties share the burden of validating signatures and must do so within 40 days of receiving the signatures from Evanin's office in Lincoln, Nebraska. Evanin announced on August 30th that the signature validation process was ongoing, but that both medical cannabis petitions has collected more than enough signatures for the ballot access. And he has not yet certified the measure for the ballot, which must be done to go to voters on November 5th. And Kuhn, through LaGrone, requested the signatures on September September 3rd. As of Thursday, the filing states Kroon still has not received access to the signatures from 8 counties. The lawsuit cites these forms of invalidities and signatures from people who were not registered voters, whose date of birth did not match their voter registration, or who did not include an address when they signed. Duplicative signatures, as well as signatures collected before the petition circulation officially began last year, or that were collected after July 3rd deadline, and other forms of fraudulent forms of signatures collection, including false notarization. The lawsuit does not specify evidence of a single signee under any of the types of invalid signatures outlined or how many signatories might be thrown out. However, the lawsuit states that Kuhn has good reason to believe that there won't be enough signatures after that process. And that's what he believes anyways. Plaintiff is unable to provide the total number of signatories that are invalid for each of these reasons because the signature pages of the petitions have not been provided, the lawsuit states. And as the signature pages of the petitions continue to be produced, plaintiff anticipates that will invalidate many that will be uncovered. And Attorney General Mike Hilgers announced on Thursday that he's hosting a Friday morning news conference to announce uncovered falsification of voter signatures in the petition process. It was unclear which of these several petitions he planned to discuss, however. The Attorney General's office had no immediate comment on this lawsuit either, and the Nebraska Constitution requires proponents in initiative measures seeking to create new state laws to collect signatures from at least 7% of registered voters. Of those, they must be distributed among 5% of the registered voters in at least 38 of the state's 93 counties. The campaign submitted more than 114,000 signatures on July 3rd for each of its 2 petitions, and in a, quote, unofficial interim results cited in the lawsuit indicate 89,841 valid signatures in 52 validated counties as of September 5th. Cohen evaluated his public records request to Hilgers, and Hilgers is a former lawmaker who also opposed medical marijuana and has led a statewide campaign against Delta 8, which contains THC, the compound in the cannabis plant most commonly associated with someone getting high, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. The 2024 election cycle marks Nebraskans for medical marijuana's 3rd attempt to qualify for the ballot, beginning back in 2019 after legislative efforts had stalled. And that year, LaGrone requested an attorney general's opinion on legislation from Wishart, which stated her legislation would likely be preempted or made moot by federal law prohibiting any form of cannabis. The lawsuit cites that opinion and U.S. Supreme Court precedent, and in May, the federal government officially began what could be a lengthy process to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I drug on the same level as heroin and LSD, Matthew's favorite drug, to a Schedule III drug on the same level as Tylenol with codeine or ketamine. As of February, 38 states allowed cannabis for medical use, and 24 of those states also legalized for adult use purposes. And according to the Pew Research Center, Washington, D.C., has also legalized both, you guys. Back in 2020, the campaign submitted enough signatures, but the issue did not reach the ballot after a similar challenge from Lancaster County Sheriff Terry Wagner argued the efforts constituted more than one as far as the single subject rule, and the Nebraska Supreme Court agreed in a 5-2 opinion back then. In 2021, separate state-level legislation stalled 31-18, 2 votes short of passage, and the campaign tried again before the 2022 election, but couldn't get enough valid signatures. In September of 2023, the group returned with 2 separate petitions in what it said would be the final attempt, banking on success at the ballot box, you guys. Well, they do say 3rd time's the charm, and I think this is a little late for these guys to be following all of this. And in one other part of this, the lawsuit also alleges that the divided petitions each also violate the single subject rule. On the legalization petition, the lawsuit states it includes whether to legalize the drug and how to protect authorized individuals. And for the regulatory petition, it argues insufficiency because it would legalize the drug and create a new Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission, and revolves around whether to, in quotes, divest of the legislature of its legislative authority over cannabis, you guys. Nebraska's High Court has taken more stringent view of the single subject requirement when it comes to the ballot measures than to legislatively enacted laws. And 2 other ballot measures, both related to abortion, also face single subject challenges, and the Supreme Court considered those arguments on Monday and is expected to decide by Friday morning, you guys. Sounds like we're going to have some more news about all of this in the coming weeks, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Why can't they just let the people's voice be heard?
Well, it sounds like the people spoke a little bit late this time, Jason, and it's possible. I'd love to see why this ballot initiative was shot down so many other times. It's possible that they put it in so late because they were hoping that people wouldn't have time to challenge it, which is kind of an issue for them now if that's what the reasoning was, because one of these arguments is that there wasn't time to properly challenge all these signatures. So hopefully it'll pass. We'll see.
But I'm going to push back on that because they filed for this in the time that was allotted for them to submit the signatures. So regardless of all of that, I think it deserves to be on the ballot. I'm
going to volley this back to you and push back again. Because when you yes, if I get it at the ask deadline, right? Yes, did I get it in within the allotted amount of time? I sure did. But do I understand that there could be challenges? Do I understand there's supposed to be a regulated amount of time for those challenges to be heard? And if the government, who we know often slow plays things, doesn't meet their burden of time, it still doesn't change the fact that the people who are contesting these initiatives have the right to check all of these signatures, which sucks. I get it. And I think that these are some miserable people in Nebraska where I guess there's not a lot else to do other than try to read down and shoot down signatures for people trying to get access for others. But Jason, if I know that people are going to challenge this and they challenge it every time, I would double check my list. I would triple check it, and I would submit it in plenty of time to make sure that I can throw it in their face. They can check every signature and realize that I have it.
I'm not buying any of that. That's cute that you feel that way.
You're getting better at not arguing, though. I'm proud of you.
I don't know.
An artful deflection, Brother Beck.
I don't know about all that.
Growth and maturation. I love it.
I mean, I'm willing to bet that these prohibitionists actually think that it's actually going to pass, because otherwise they wouldn't be going after it. They just say, you know what, let's let it go to the voters. It's not going to pass. So they're obviously not confident in their voter base turning out for this election. What do you say about that?
Well, I feel it should go to a vote too. You can't just, this is a waste of time, money, government resources to block this kind of stuff 3 times now. Why don't you just let the people decide for themselves? And if that's the initiative or the problem with it, maybe we need to fix that initial problem with giving this much timeline or voter signatures with addresses and such. Most people don't want to sign the paper with their address on it anymore. We have outdated things because of scams and spam and all that kind of stuff. So I think maybe that update of that needs to happen, and that's like a root cause. And if marijuana is going to pass because the people want it to pass, why can't the state of Nebraska let it pass or fail?
Gosh, I would offer it's because Nebraska is run by hardcore right-wing ultra-conservative Christians. And what we see with hardcore right-wing ultra-conservative Christians is not only do they want to make choices for themselves, they wish to make choices for everyone else. And I think this is a real warning sign for anybody who wants to enable Don the Con to win, because it's just about him.
I don't know about all
it's
that.
It's about the hardcore right-wing Christians backing him.
Whoa.
Their will to control you, your body, and your consciousness.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
It is what it is, you guys.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
Matthew, I'm glad it's Friday.
Again, Jason, an artful deflection, just ignoring a couple millennia of social and political history. The Inquisition.
I will say this to your point, though, that the right-wing conservative Christians, I feel as though, do need to go back and read their Bibles, especially the Old Testament, where it does say that all seed-bearing plants are of this earth and to be used, and so therefore any Christian that is protesting a plant, I think needs to reevaluate their relationship with God.
Absolutely, and I think they could read a few other places in the Bible as well. But I'm going to push back on Mathieu St. Germain as maybe the least offensive Republican on this show, right? You guys keep trying to annex me into another party, but I re-registered again because I moved, so I had to change my registration. It's still Republican.
Yep.
But I think that we need to make sure that we're looking at that portion of the Bible that says, "Let he was without sin cast the first stone," and things like that. And exactly. I don't know that it's necessarily just a conservative thing, because yes, there are a lot of those people who are in the Bible beating conservative side of things, But that's not all of us, and that's unfortunate. And hopefully maybe those of us who are more rational, reasonable, and actual loving adults can get through to some of the yahoos. But if not, listen, hate to be this girl, they'll die off eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, am I the only person who has dealt with
Too much, Dr. Mark?
the amount of trauma that my friends who are raised by ultra right-wing Christians have gone through? My friends who are raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. Am I the only person who understands the castigation and the being thrown out of the fellowship for untoward behavior, unapproved behavior? Like,
I was thrown out of the. I was thrown
operating
out of the
in some
family.
sort of vacuum where we're pretending like this isn't true.
I was thrown out of the family. My church that I grew up in, that I led every solo in for my entire life, wouldn't baptize my child. Like, no, I understand absolutely. And do you know who I blame? Do I blame an entire movement? No, I blame those assholes who are sitting in their antiquated beliefs and they refuse to evolve. So if there are people on the right that are willing to evolve, let's not bash them, let's teach.
This is the craziest thing about Christianity and the cognitive dissonance that is taught to people who are raised in Abrahamic religions, divorce their logic circuits from their belief circuits before they really put their logic circuits down around the age of 5, continue to make excuses and exceptions, whereas if you were to look into the book and the dogma and the thousands of year history, it's literally those Christian outposts that are non-dogmatic and are welcoming are literally aberrations that prove the rule. They are exceptions. They are not the mainstream. Why don't we, instead of, it's like the Bible. It's like, oh, the Bible says love everybody. It also says that you should be stoned to death if you wear 2 different fabrics. Right. So if you show up to the meeting with cotton and wool on, we're supposed to stone you to death. And so
it doesn't look good.
Instead of constantly making up stories and excuses, why don't we evolve our consciousness, something that more correctly represents how humanity should be treated and treat each other in a one-to-one basis and representation? Again, I do more acid than anybody on here, so I'm probably wrong. Thank you.
No, that's not true, but I'm glad you think I'm exceptional, Mathieu St. Germain. But I will push back on that, and I will say yes, and why don't we, instead of alienate, teach?
Yep.
Oh, shit. Nick Bradley has agreed to a fist fight with the C word at Hall of Flowers. Guys, may I please be the referee?
Hold on. Yes, we got a big old super chat.
And martial arts and jiu-jitsu referee.
We got a big old super chat. Thank you, the C word. Yeah, Nick Bradley has agreed to a fist fight with me at Hall of Flowers. I'm taking bets. Jesus has my back, by the way. The C word.
Taste style with the broken glass on the knuckles.
I'm here for this. We're gonna have to make sure that that Nick has the proper head protection on, though. I'm gonna
take the straight bet that they're both getting kicked the hell out of Hall of Flowers.
I mean, I heard Dr. Jean Talleyrand is going to be the referee of this match.
And in the right corner, we have
God, Rastafari, what happened to one love? I am not.
But they're bald heads, Dr. Talleyrand, so does that count?
David joined the clan.
And while we're still waiting on Rico, I do want to introduce Chris Hadala just joined us, who is the CEO of Pro Verde Labs out on the East Coast, and want to welcome him to coming on. And I feel like